Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Thank you very much for being with us today, both in person and virtually. We are going to have our webinar with this distinguished speaker. And once more and again, is our pleasure to give all of you our contribution in terms of elements of new thinking and new vision through our speakers today. And I don't want to take more time, and I leave to Ed introduce you all the speakers, and I want to thank the speakers, of course, to have accepted to be with us today. As well, I thank you in person and those that are following us virtually. Thank you very much. Enjoy the webinars. Ed.
Grazie mille, Gaetano. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you're joining us from. It's such a pleasure to be back here in Vicenza again for Vicenza Oro. Thank you so much to Italian Exhibition Group, IEG, organizers of this show, and especially thank you to Marco Carniello and all of the team for welcoming us back into the Italian jewelry family. It's such a pleasure to be back because Jewelry Industry Voices, the webinar series that we've been running from Cibjo for almost exactly 2 years now, we've run that virtually. It's been on Zoom once a month. And I can't tell you how enjoyable it is to be back in real life, IRL, as they say, talking to you in front of a live audience and with all of my panelists here today. So thank you, everybody, for joining. So as I say, this event forms part of our webinar series, Jewelry Industry Voices, and we look at issues of interest that are affecting the global jewelry industry. And we do that from the perspective of industry figures. For the first of 2 conversations that we're having today, I'm joined by leaders from the platinum, gold, colored gemstones, pearls, and diamond industries. And the focus is that we're here to highlight the benefits that these products and businesses bring to communities all around the world where they're farmed, mined, sourced, and manufactured. And why it's important for consumer confidence, and it's important to continue to build on the current strong demand that the jewelry industry experienced last year, and to build on this and follow industry standards in responsible sourcing, in responsible business practice, and also in the wider picture of sustainability. We know that society and consumers are changing rapidly. And this is due to the cultural shifts that were happening long before the pandemic. But they've been accelerated. We've seen that many luxury brands now are really focusing and highlighting on the positive impacts and benefits that they and their supply chains bring to society. They're clearly demonstrating these benefits. This is additional to the focus that they've always done on luxury, quality, service, and experience. It's now an integral part of a jeweler's weaponry that they can use to sell jewelry at the retail counter. So we're here to talk about that today. It's important to build from the basis that the industry has already been working on for almost 20 years now around sustainability and responsible sourcing standards. I am very, very pleased to be joined on stage today by 5 leaders, as I said, from the 5 component parts that make up fine and luxury jewelry. Starting on my left here, Hugh Daniel, a veteran of the jewelry industry and the advertising industry, if I can say, joining us as the Chief Executive of the Platinum Guild International, PGI. Hugh, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you.
Also, Charlie Betts from the Betts Metal Group, based in Birmingham in UK. Charlie's business is over 260 years old. He doesn't look it, I know, but the business has been around for a long time, one of the oldest businesses in the UK jewellery manufacturing business. Thank you so much for joining us today, Charlie.
Thanks for having me, Ed.
Hayley Henning from Greenland Ruby. Always a pleasure to have Hayley with us, representing the coloured stone sector. Thanks for travelling to be with us today, Hayley.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
All the way from Fiji, his first time out of the country for 2 years. We are so pleased to have enticed Justin Hunter from J. Hunter Pearls in Fiji onto stage with us, representing the Pearl community. Thank you.
Thank you.
Closer afield, we have Chris Bull from Dimexon, having travelled from Antwerp. Chris is really a leader, and Dimexon is a leader in sustainability and the diamonds impact story that have been working for many years now. Chris, thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Ed. Nice to be here.
Let's dive straight into some questions that I have here for the panelists. Now, from my perspective, and Charlie, if I can turn to you first, gold is the first component that we think of when we're building up a piece of jewelry. But, I mean, I think we've seen that many people have turned towards sustainability, especially recently, and are starting to use the term. Arguably, the term is being so overused, it's becoming somewhat meaningless. Given that mining is inherently not environmentally sustainable, given that once we take it out of the ground, we're not going to put it back in there, what should sustainability look like within the jewelry industry from your perspective?
Thanks, Ed. It's a big question, so I'll try and just give a very quick summary to begin with. As you say, brands across all industries are increasingly using the word sustainability in their marketing and branding, and that's a good thing because it means they're doing that for a reason. They're doing that because consumers are taking an interest in sustainability, and it's starting to cut through to consumer demand. The flip side of that is it means that brands are not for long going to be able to get away with just talking about it. They're actually going to have to really understand it and engage with what they're doing. And I think from a jewelry industry perspective, the best way a brand can look at and consider its sustainability is to engage with its supply chain. Like you say, mining is almost by definition not sustainable. You're digging a big pit. Once it's gone, it's gone. But what is sustainable is the beneficial impact that mining can have, particularly from a social, but actually also from an environmental perspective, if it's done properly. So the jewelry industry needs to drive that change within the mining industry.
And where I want to talk later on with you, of course, I introduced you as being from Betts Metals, but you're representing a new project that you're launching through your company Hummingbird Resources called SMO, Single Mine Origin Gold, where the gold is fully traceable back to a mine, Yanfolila mine in Mali, in West Africa. So we're looking forward to that conversation specifically about the positive impact that your product brings to society. But if I can turn next for the platinum perspective to you, Hugh. Again, the mineral is brought out of the ground. The largest miners are involved in the PGI. Do you feel nowadays, even with this shift, that consumers are aware of responsible or sustainable jewelry, and what is the importance of it in jewelry purchasing decisions?
Well, PGI, as you know, we basically handle the consumer marketing of platinum in the jewelry space. So this is an issue that we track very closely in all of the markets. As a consumer issue, the US is obviously leading. There we see something like 70% of consumers stating a concern in sustainability. But what's interesting is we've also seen that now developing in the other markets, notably in India, Japan, and China. So among the younger generation of consumer, this is definitely something that they're saying they're concerned about. And generally that is impact on environment, traceability to source, and importantly, especially in the US, impact on human lives. It's the human aspect in particular that seems to capture the imagination of the American consumer. When it comes to actually purchasing behavior, of course, we can say one thing, but when it comes to actually what we spend our money on, it's a slightly different thing. But what we've seen is consumers generally are willing or expressed a willingness to pay a premium for a product that can be certified as sustainably sourced. So, for example, in the US, that premium consumers claim to be 10 to 15%. In India, it's more. In the US, it's more 15 to 20%. In India, we're seeing 10, 15%. So, but I think that's something that will change over time.
Now, premium is important to note because, of course, the more consumers are not challenged by a price point, the more they're going to buy. But we are operating here in a luxury environment. And Justin, if I can bring you in with pearls, where do you see pearls within the sustainable luxury sphere?
Thank you, Ed. I think first we've got to understand that pearls are something that are farmed, that they come from some of the most beautiful and remote island and coastal communities in the world, which are pristine by nature, because pearl farming requires a pristine marine environment in order for you to produce good pearls. Therefore, when you look at the social, economic, and environmental benefits that pearls bring to these developing island countries and communities, it's significant, and it's something that luxury should get behind and understand that a strong pearl industry really does benefit a lot of people, and we would love to see that aspect understood, especially in a time when we understand that biodiversity is quite crucial in terms of battling climate change, as tropical species are going to be proliferate throughout the oceans in the future, and in this regard, pearl farms act as quasi-marine protected areas.
Thank you for that, that point, and we'll dive into that in more detail in a minute. So moving along from the pearls, let's go to coloured stones. Let's go up to the frozen wastes of Greenland. And, Hayley, you've been such a champion of sustainability and corporate responsibility for so many years with a number of companies. But in your journey, your sustainability journey and your business journey, where do you see the industry doing well, and where can it improve?
Thank you for the question, Ed. And as you rightly said, I have been involved in sustainability, aspects of sustainability in the coloured gemstone industry for quite some time. And actually, within our industry, it is coloured stones that does offer a great challenge because, as most of you probably know, the coloured gemstone industry is, most coloured gemstones are sourced from countries, exotic origins that are, very, very difficult to pin aspects of sustainability or even responsibility on some of these origins. So it has been a focus for me over the years, making it a priority in everything that I've done, from one-on-one to, big corporate aspects. What do we do well? Events such as this, attending, talking about it, talking about sustainability within our industry, organizations like Cibjo, for example, who have worked very, very hard on their Blue Book information that's available to everybody in our industry, gathering information amongst one another, stakeholders within our industries, and making that available not only for one another, but what I do think we can do better as an industry is involving the consumer more in what we do, because it is, in the end, the consumer that we're appealing to. And while we all know what each other does, how much of that actually filters through to consumer level. And it really is the consumer, as we know from our research, that is requiring more and more responsibility or sustainability from us as an industry. And we need to talk about it more on those sort of levels, telling them exactly what we do and how what we do actually makes a difference within communities, not only the communities in which we operate, but more widespread than just our very small communities in which we operate,
And-
the industry as a whole.
Yeah, thank you, of course, for bringing the consumer in, because without the old adage that without the consumer, none of us would have any role and we wouldn't be sitting up here.
Right.
It's that last 18 inches across the counter that
Correct.
really counts, and those stories at the counter that you guys are part of at the start, at the start of the sourcing, is what really matters. And we saw that, Chris, with diamonds, where the diamond industry really was brought into the world of responsible sourcing, over 20 years ago, with the Kimberley process, which was established in 2003. And you've been involved in the diamond business for a number of years, many years with different companies, and have been through that journey, which, let's face it, it's made significant strides. But what does the diamond industry need to do to continue that forward motion of improvements?
Firstly, I think you're right. I think the diamond industry has made some strong strides over the last year. But to keep the momentum going, I think what we really need to do is focus on transparency throughout the supply chain. Now, I'm speaking from the midstream position, but we need to encourage our clients to ask us questions, and we need to be ready to give them answers. Because you mentioned the consumer, and the consumer is the one with the power. And, when they choose a brand to make a jewelry purchase with, of course they're interested in the design and the price and maybe the quality of the stone, but there's a lot more questions that they want answers to. Perhaps, where did the diamond come from? Was it responsibly sourced? Was it polished in an environment that respected the human rights? Is the brand that they've chosen, do they reflect their values? Are they doing their bit for the climate? And are all the sustainability claims that the brand is making, can they stand up under scrutiny? So we are integral parts of their supply chain, and nowadays I feel we're not selling diamonds as such. We're selling diamonds, but a whole load of solutions around those stones. So are they 100% natural? What processes are we using to ensure that? Are we offering traceability and provenance solutions? Are we providing an environment where workers are well remunerated and working in healthy, safe conditions? Are our businesses ethically managed? So we have to encourage our clients to ask these questions, because without the answers, they can't complete the story, right? They have to give that reassurance to the end consumer who wants to know they're doing the right thing by buying from that particular brand.
And you mentioned that the consumer wants to buy from a brand that reflects their values.
Absolutely. I mean, we talk about the consumer voting with his wallet, and they want to feel that the brand that they've selected shares their values.
And when most of the consumers of jewelry are women, having strong ESG strategies, environmental, social, and governance strategies that promote gender equality are truly important for the brands to be able to reflect those strategies. Now, I know Dimexon have done a lot of work on that. You'd set KPIs for yourselves, and you've matched and met those KPIs. So tell us more about that journey that Dimexon's taken in gender equality.
I mean, that journey began actually a long time back, around 30 years ago, when the founder of the company, Pankaj Mehta, he was faced in the 90s with needing a significantly larger manufacturing facility. And as opposed to him going to Surat, where 90% of the diamonds were being polished at that time, he selected the town where he grew up, which is way down in the south of India, called Coimbatore. And at that time, he was looking around. He wanted to obviously to employ local people from the local community, and he came to the obvious realization that women had the attention to detail and the precision to polish diamonds as well as men. So, and at the same time, he could actually offer families that had, there were very few. I mean, Coimbatore was an industrial center, famous for its engineering, and there were very few employment opportunities for women at that time. So he made a decision to employ women. I think a few years later, 90% of the 3,500 workers that were there were women.
Wow. Yeah.
So this was something that began a long time back, and I think through over the years, allowing flexibility, equal pay, gender equality, a lot of these young ladies moved up through there was no glass ceiling for them, so they moved up through the company, and today I think globally 75% of the company is female, and a third of those are in managerial positions. When I look at Antwerp, for example, my right-hand man is a woman, and my left-hand man is another woman. So, yeah, it's very much part of what we do.
It's such a great story to talk about, and it gives the retailers much more to talk about at the sales counter, and that's the point that we're always trying to make, is these stories make an impact.
Yeah.
And when we're moving forward into really getting into some positive impact stories, Hayley, for the coloured stones with you've started from Greenland Ruby, the Polar Bear Foundation. Now, with that foundation and the work that you do, how do you quantify the positive impacts that your operations make?
Well, at Greenland Ruby, we initiated the Pink Polar Bear Foundation, which is really our corporate social responsibility arm. It's an organization that is being driven by and funded by every gemstone that we sell at Greenland Ruby. So every stone that we sell contributes towards the Pink Polar Bear Foundation. And this is a foundation that is not about polar bears. It is about people, and it's about people in Greenland. And it's about contributing or supporting or being present on the ground in Greenland in a way other than just our gemstone production. So, for example, and this is a newly formed organization, just a couple of years old, so in its infancy, but to date we've sponsored 2 PhD students. We're focused on education, of course, 2 PhD students, and a sewing workshop in the south of Greenland, close to where our mining operation is. So through the Pink Polar Bear Foundation, our goal is to create awareness on the ground in Greenland for what we do with our gemstones. Of course, we are operating in Greenland, we're mining, and our gemstones find their way into an international marketplace. And what are we doing on the ground locally to support communities? And it's through the Pink Polar Bear Foundation that we're doing this. That's visually, that has a visual effect every single day. So, of course, we have other effects as well. Through our license with the Government of Greenland, our impact benefit agreement, of course, is key, and that's more on the environmental front. But the Pink Polar Bear Foundation is certainly all about people and the impact that we as gemstone producers are making locally.
And thinking about people, of course, sometimes mines get accused of bringing in too many outside labor. So what sort of percentage of your workforce in Greenland are Greenlandic?
100% of our Greenlandic workforce are local Greenlandic people.
Oh.
And we're a very small company, actually, in terms of numbers, and we operate globally with offices in Norway and in Denmark, and of course in the US and in Europe. And of course Bangkok, which is where we do all of our processing in Thailand. But we are a small number of people, but 100% of local Greenlandic people in our Greenland operation.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
And when we're thinking about diversity, I can't think of 2 countries that are more diverse than Greenland and Fiji. So let's just segue into Fiji. What are the main social and environmental issues that you can make a positive impact, Justin?
Well, when you look at a pearling industry, and if it's done correctly, when you have responsible pearl producers, you can do something quite unique, which is under the definition of a blue economy, whereby you actually merge economic opportunities for the people, our farmers, and the many people who rely on our farms, and conservation. When you can merge these 2 things, it's quite amazing, because pearl farms inherently need a clean environment around us, and our people therefore become stewards of the sea. They want to protect that environment. In Fiji 2 years ago, there was a cabinet paper approval for us to develop the small town of Savu Savu, where I'm from, and I was then also appointed as a special administrator of mayor to try to implement what would be the world's first blue town. And so a blue town, by definition, is an area where we attract financing to some of the least developed properties in the world so we can fix some of our basic infrastructure issues such as waste recycling, lack of sewerage facilities, creating sustainable livelihoods through sustainable tourism and also through pearls. And if you can do that, then it becomes a circular economy, and that's the best way we, as a developing island nation, can preserve this very valuable tropical marine biodiversity. It's by providing economic opportunities and creating this mechanism to transfer technology that we do not have from developed countries to these developing island nations. And the fact that I think pearls and our pearl industry, with the help of Cibjo and also the Australian and Philippine pearl producers, highlighted this, that just by definition, we create these buffers of conservation and in marine protected areas around our farms. And we do it because we need to protect our jobs and industry, but it works perfectly, and that's the definition of what is often referred to as the blue economy.
Yeah.
And so we're quite proud of that, and we believe that the pearl industry the world over, responsible oceanic pearls, should be able to follow a similar path, but it's upon us to make sure that we take up these social, economic, and environmental responsibilities as producers also to continue this.
And we know that one of the best ways to deal with the climate crisis now is to reduce poverty globally and bringing people opportunities that are sustainable and long-term for their economic progress.
And if I could just add to that, a lot of the developing island nations and communities that are involved in pearl production are also inherently merged and reliant on tourism. Yeah. And over the last 2 years, we've noticed that the impact of tourism and the loss of jobs, and even on pearl farms, although we can't quite stop, put a lot more stressors on resources. A lot more of the people who lost jobs in order to feed families, in order to put food on the table, send kids to school, even though that wasn't, they ended up going into these areas and putting a lot more pressure on these marine reserves, which it's in our long-term interest as a planet to maintain and preserve.
You've had some significant challenges in the past 2 years. You can't mothball a pearl farm.
Absolutely not. Even though we see a huge decrease in sales and sales opportunities, being able to even export became very difficult, and then all of our clients that we do sell to were closed. However, a pearl farm simply can't turn off the engine. We cannot do that. We're farming a living animal, and as farmers, we have to look after them, and that means we have to go out there daily, make sure that their health is fine, not just for the next 6 months, but when we're doing the jobs we did over the last couple of years, made sure that we're going to have pearls tomorrow and for 5 years out. That's how long we are, and we're vested in the long-term goal of pearling and the industry. So it has been really difficult, but that's part of what we have to do, and we embrace as farmers. And
thinking about the long term, if I turn to South Africa, that economy has really been built by precious metals and diamonds. So as a representative of the platinum miners, the PGI is funded by the main South African platinum miners. Hugh, what do you see are the main ESG initiatives that your members are now embracing?
Well, over 70% of the world's mined platinum production comes from South Africa. And when you're down in South Africa, as part of the mining community in South Africa, platinum is by far the biggest sector in terms of its contribution to GDP. And in terms of employment, the sector employs about 160,000 individuals. And then you can add a multiplier of 10 onto that to understand the impact that that has on communities. So it's a very important sector. The 5 main producers in South Africa, sponsors of the Platinum Guild International, which is my organization, and they obviously, publicly owned companies. There's a high degree of scrutiny on all of their activities. So when we kind of look at the sector in general, all those companies signed on to the UN Global Pact and actually acting on the SDGs. All the mined platinum that comes onto the global market adheres to the standards of the London Platinum Palladium market, good delivery standards in terms of responsibly sourced. So it's certified as responsibly sourced. And then in terms of the companies themselves, they're very proactive in this area. Anglo American, which is the biggest operator down there, the parent company of Anglo Platinum, have committed to be net carbon zero by 2040 and 30% by 2030. So that's a huge commitment because these mining operations obviously are very energy intensive. They use a lot of water, they use a lot of power, electricity in a country that doesn't really have much of those kind of resources. So it's a big area, and the way these companies are achieving those kind of ambitious goals is by basically having to convert to carbon neutral fuels. So using solar, hydrogen. Of course, hydrogen uses platinum, and the mining companies are being very aggressive and progressive in developing the technologies that will bring hydrogen electric as an option to battery electric. So on the environmental front, that's obviously important. And then from a social impact, these companies touch millions of lives. And so there's a lot that they've been doing. If we just take, for example, the most recent massive issue that we've had in South Africa, which is the COVID pandemic, the mining companies basically were the biggest distributors of vaccines. Something like 90% of their employees now are vaccinated, fully vaccinated. And what astonishes me is that production was not actually disrupted throughout the entire pandemic, even though that's a very, when you get down in these mines, you can imagine going down in these mine shafts, there's a lot of people compressed into small areas, but they managed to actually keep the mine operations running at a time when the government scrutiny on them was, any outbreaks, we shut you down. So I think they did an incredible job on that. But it goes further than that. I mean, that echoes to a certain extent the efforts they did during the AIDS epidemic many, many years ago, where basically these mining companies were the biggest distributors of retroviral drugs in the country. So they've always kind of taken the lead in that. And then the efforts go beyond that in terms of looking at how they support and impact the local communities, and making sure that there is a sustainable economy in place for when these mines eventually will be shuttered, because they're not going to be here in 100 years' time. So what are all those people going to be doing? So a lot of the projects that they invest in are actually developing sustainable economies that will be able to function when the mines are no longer there.
It's a really good point to bring in, and Charlie, I see you nodding your head. As somebody that represents a family that's traded gold for 260 years, as we talked about, and your new venture from Betts, SMO, Single Mine Origin Gold, from Jan Falila mine in Mali in West Africa. But from my perspective, where I sit, when I watch many retailers now, I see an increasing trend to put a sustainable angle on only using recycled gold. Is that the best sustainable option?
It's certainly a sustainable option. As you say, we've been recycling gold for a quarter of a millennium, so you're not going to find me knocking recycling. I think it's incredibly important. I think it's a really, really important piece of the jigsaw, but it's definitely only a piece of the jigsaw. I mean, recycled metal probably accounts for about 25% of global gold supply, and I would argue it's quite easy for jewelry brands to slightly sidestep the issues of sustainability and engaging with the issues within mining and gold production by just saying we're going to wash our hands of that and just use recycled metal. With recycled metal, there is there's no real structure of regulation around it. It's quite easy to claim metal is recycled. Gold is sort of infinitely recycled. And you don't know the provenance of that metal. And you can't really make any claim about the positive impact recycled metal is having on a host community. So if we turn our gaze to the other 75% of the gold, actually, if you engage with that properly, and the reason I was nodding to Hugh's point is actually big corporate mining companies done right, actually some of them are incredibly progressive corporate citizens, and the impact they're having in some of the most challenging areas of the world is phenomenal. So Boodles, for example, was a big early adopter of our single mine origin gold. And the reason they were so keen on this product is because rather than ducking the issue and saying all our gold's now recycled, they wanted to engage with some of the issues in really challenging areas in West Africa and be able to demonstrate that they've had a genuine positive impact affecting thousands of lives.
So tell me specifically about what are some of those positive impacts that you can see that Hummingbird and SMO are creating in Mali?
Yeah, so single mine origin isn't just Hummingbird Resources. It's open to any mine that is signed up to and has a third-party audit with a responsibility standard. So we also have Endeavour's Ity mine in the Ivory Coast. But if I talk about Jan Falila in Mali, the transformation on that local community is phenomenal. There are alternative livelihoods, setting up poultry farms. They're employing 900 people in market gardens, soap making projects, beekeeping projects. And I think, the bit that I think is most important is the health and education infrastructure that's brought to that area. So just to quickly dig into that, Hummingbird works with a company called Critical Care International, and they not only provide healthcare service to the mine and the mine staff, but they have community outreach programs. Now, very sadly, the area in southern Mali around Jan Falila has unacceptably high child mortality, 20%. 1 in 5 children is dying before the age of 5 in that area. And the impact that, if you take the expertise and skills from the most advanced medical, systems in the world, by applying that into a community like that, the amplification is extraordinary. In 2020, CCI went out into the community and assessed 1,100 children for malnutrition. They found 159 cases of severe acute malnutrition, which has a mortality of 50%. And they treated that and cured that. That is a tangible benefit that we can trace right through the supply chain and a consumer can feel fantastic about.
I like that story, and of course what we're talking about here is real tangible benefits. And I want to segue in, we've still got 15 minutes to go, but I want to segue in to really talk about how you guys demonstrate your commitment to these principles you've been talking about so far. And Hayley, I'm very pleased to make sure that everybody is well aware that Greenland Ruby is the first colored stone mining company certified to RJC's Code of Practices, the Responsible Jewelry Councils. Now, what a fantastic achievement for the business and yourself and all of your team that went through that. Why was it important for you to do that?
Well, thank you, Ed. And indeed, it is an incredible achievement for a coloured gemstone mining operation to have gained the certification against the RJC Code of Practices. If you don't know what that is, if anybody by any chance doesn't know what that is, I do suggest that you look into it. The RJC is a organization within our industry that is setting standards to which we can look towards in creating better businesses for ourselves and for our industry. And the coloured gemstone industry has actually lagged a little bit behind the RJC because, as I said, or I touched upon a little bit earlier, coloured gemstones are really, really a difficult segment within our industry to actually pigeonhole into the RJC Code of Practices. But it was just a couple of years ago where their Code of Practices accommodated coloured gemstone mining. And Greenland Ruby, the first company to get certified against these Code of Practices, worked really hard over the last 2 to 3 years to achieve the certification. And when I say we worked really hard, it was indeed hard, but I will also say that these standards are within the DNA of our company. We are a newly formed organization. We operate out of Greenland and everything we do is held to the highest of Northern European standards. So from that point of view, from environmental, from health and safety, human resources, complying with the RJC Code of Practices was something that actually, we did through a series of auditing processes and was achieved over time, and of course not an easy process, but indeed something that we could accommodate within our organization. I will say, though, that we have a gentleman in our audience, Torben Fries is our compliance officer. I would recommend that if one does go on this journey with RJC, that you allocate a person within your organization that takes that responsibility, because it is a serious achievement. It is something that needs to be taken responsibly, and it is through Torben and his hard work that pulled us all together to help us achieve our certification.
Yeah, thanks for pointing that out. Torben, maybe you'd like to stand so that everybody in the room knows. If you've got questions, please feel free to ask Torben.
Indeed.
I like the way you talk about it, and lots of people, of course, have looked at RJC, and I think you're recommending people to at least look at it, at least. But many companies are not in the same situation that Greenland Ruby are in.
No.
And many companies, especially smaller ones, in the coloured gemstone supply chain have concerns.
Yeah,
so what would be your message to them?
And there are concerns, of course, because, achieving something like this, as I said, is no easy feat. It does, it costs, human resources, and, some people say, oh, well, it's so expensive to comply against these codes of practices. And perhaps it is, but perhaps one should also think about the cost involved with not being responsible. And look at a much bigger picture and a future picture. And what I've always said over these last number of years that I've worked in this sort of area within our industry, it's not just for the big companies or organizations, but that one should really take on these standards as individuals first and foremost. It starts with ourselves, with our own level of responsibility, with the individual, within our homes, and then within our offices, and then within our organization. And it sort of trickles down from there. So it's not what does it cost to be responsible, but what does it cost to not be responsible.
Yeah.
And I think that taking a look at the bigger picture is really where we all need to go within our industry.
And again, Chris, you're nodding there, so I think it's a good time to bring you back in. And we've talked about the diamond's journey, which has been longer than other materials, and Dimexon, you've outlined the work that you've done in gender empowerment, women's empowerment, also the work that you've been doing on conservation, wildlife conservation, and also support for local communities. But there are still questions asked sometimes from the consumer of the diamond industry. It has a legacy. So if I can, ask a pointed question, is the objective of the work that you've been doing, laudable though it is it to serve your social and environmental goals, or is it simply to serve your marketing efforts?
Spiky question, Ed.
Thank you.
No, it's absolutely not to service our marketing goals. I've talked about women empowerment. That's in Demexon's DNA. It wasn't a hot topic 30 years ago, but it was a direction we decided to go in, and it's a direction we've maintained throughout. 30 years ago, we started recycling. We started funding and supporting educational institutes in the Coimbatore area as a way of giving back to the community. We started harvesting rainwater, treating sewage. These were all, sustainable actions, but sustainability wasn't the buzzword then that it is today. So I like to say that we were already doing this. Did we talk about it then? No, not really. But are we talking about it now? Yes. But times have changed, and people want to know more, and they can know more. And as I said earlier, it's all in the spirit of transparency. And, we work with some pretty major brands globally. And, like it or not, we are part of their supply chain. And, we've got to do the right thing in order for them to do the right thing. I won't repeat what I said earlier, but I mean, it's very much, and this is not something that we have done and therefore can sit on our laurels. This is a period of continuous work. I mean, we look at it as a process of continuous improvement. The challenge now is climate and environment in a way that it wasn't 20 or 30 years ago, and we've got to deal with that now. We've got to look at carbon emissions, we've got to look at all these other things, and it's not easy, but, small strides, we all have to start with small steps, and eventually they'll become larger strides. And
it's important to recognize that as well. The diamond industry really had to change because of human rights issues and risks, but now the major risk we're facing is the climate crisis, and environmental issues are being brought to the fore. Can I turn to pearls if we're talking about environmental issues? Because that you've been so passionate about this for many years. But from your perspective, when you're telling the pearl sustainability story, which is inextricably linked to environmental issues, a clean environment produces a better quality pearl, and the opposite exists. How are we going to bring more people into the luxury jewelry industry with pearls?
Understanding that, the economic, we've got to realize that pearls have a unique role in the fact that we can provide economic opportunities based on marine conservation. The conscientious consumer, I believe, is looking for something quite unique and quite special. And while we are part of luxury, and that's where our economies come in, our economic opportunities, we are inherently based on marine conservation. And so we have to find a way to merge with NGOs or governments, regional bodies that are involved, oceans, UN oceans, to recognize the roles that pearl farming as an industry can play in marine conservation. Because if you take a look at the amount of consumers out there that are not yet part of luxury, a great intro and a great way to bring them in is by the story of pearls in conservation, and how these pearls provide these quasi-MPAs and jobs in some of the most highest levels of biodiversity and most threatened areas in the world that is critical for the future of our planet. And that's how we grow our industry. We're not interested in taking anything away from any of the stones here. We believe 100% that pearls can bring in new consumers that have not even been aware of luxury, and that ethical or conscientious consumer. And it's the same people that we reach to during, that would come for a holiday to a place like Fiji. They're coming there because of the natural environment. And pearls are there protecting that environment. And that's a message we've got to get out there. but it has been difficult. As you know, we've made multiple attempts with Cibjo on how we do this, because we do have to merge, and it's something that, if I can jump in, the RJC is not a mechanism for that. We need, that is part of, once we've got a pearl formed, then we become part of the RJC. Before that, we need to be part of conservation and conservation of marine areas. So it's a tricky situation we're in, but it's a great situation because of the potential that we can, and awareness that we create also by doing this. Because if we can go and stand up in front of the UN or Oceans or any conservation group, we're talking to a whole new audience,
Yeah.
and we're saying what luxury can do and how it contributes to conservation.
It's a great story for the future, and let's stick with that. But Charlie, can I turn to you? You know, thinking about your role with gold, and you know, jewelry brands, everybody's using gold, right? So, how do you turn a sustainability story into a profitable story?
I think, you know, basically talk about what you're doing. Fundamentally, you know, consumers, as we've already said, are more and more engaged with provenance and sustainability. So with single mine origin, one of the things we're doing is we're providing QR codes so that the jeweler and the end consumer has a direct link to the source of that metal. So not only can, you know, you buy an engagement ring, you can see exactly where it came from, and you can look at the social and environmental impacts of that source. And for me, it's a virtuous circle. You know, the economy is moving in the direction where doing the right thing is also now doing the most profitable thing. Offering those, you know, direct traceability to a source, offering, you know, more responsibly sourced gemstones or pearls or whatever it is going to drive profit, because it's exactly what consumers want brands to do.
It allows me to bring in the favorite saying, do well by doing good.
Exactly.
Hugh, you know, I want to turn to you for some of the last questions, and you know, I'd like to ask the audience, if you do have any questions, we will have somebody with a microphone coming around, and we might have a couple of minutes at the end. But for Platinum, where do you see and where do you recommend the brands that you're working with to use sustainability and to increase their profitability, especially at the retail counter?
Well, I would say that my advice to any company as they enter this space is to go for the lowest hanging fruit. Now, I don't mean that from a cynical point of view of what is the easiest thing to do, but from the practical point of view is that you've got lots of goals, right? And you're never going to achieve 10 out of 10 on every goal. So I think every company, every sector can identify the areas where for them it makes the most sense for them to be starting. So if I look at the platinum sector in South Africa, for many, many years they've had very advanced and progressive social programs, because they impact a lot of communities that are living on the land where they're mining. So there has to be an accommodation and a mutually beneficial area. So I would say that, you know, in the platinum sector, we're very, very advanced in that. The environmental thing, as that's become more of a priority in the last 20 years, has been catching up.
Yeah.
But there are, I would say, you know, so it's really about looking where can you have the maximum impact in the short term, go for that, and then pick off those other targets as you go.
Great advice, thank you. Listen, we've been living online for so long, and it's just so great to have an audience in front of us, so I can't miss this opportunity to throw out some questions to you. There is somebody with a microphone, okay, so please, if you have a question, raise your hand. If you can identify who you are, where you're from, and if it's to a specific panelist, please identify them by name.
Hi, my name is Elle Hill. I'm from Hill & Company, Business Management Consultants, and the question is for John. I love to hear about everything that you've been doing for a quarter of a millennium. That was a lovely quotation there. The QR code that you mentioned, technology is a trend, And sustainability is an enduring, exciting new thing that everyone's talking about. And the way that they can underpin each other is very exciting to me. So when you mentioned the QR code, I immediately thought, are you also now exploring how you might perhaps use NFTs to trace and track and allow people who are very excited to have those as a component of their purchase of ethical gold or traceable or single origin gold?
Non-fungible tokens, for those who don't know what an NFT is. Thank you, El.
Right. So to answer your question, at the moment, we're not using NFTs. So the chain of custody for the gold from the two mines we are using, it's quite a straightforward. And I think our primary goal is to keep adding massive extra cost out of the supply chain, because I also do a lot of work with Fair Trade and Fair Mind in the UK, and one of the things we constantly bang up against is the premium on those products for really, really good reasons. The premium is very significant, and it puts, some jewelers won't absorb it and won't engage with it. So we've tried to bring a product that is, available to the mass market at basically no premium. So we're trying to keep costs in the supply chain to a minimum. And also, I don't necessarily see that blockchain adds an enormous amount of value into the supply chain at the moment, because we have a very, very clear audit trail from mine to, internationally recognized carriers, LBMA refiners with, Bureau Veritas coming in and auditing that segregation process. I don't think there's a great deal of scope for fraud within that supply chain. Having said that, I think these things, like everything, get cheaper. So at the moment, Hummingbird is part of the World Gold Council's trial with Agzedras, looking at introducing blockchain into that supply chain. So I think it will come, but it wasn't our driving priority at the start.
I don't want to put the rest of you on the spot, but I'm going to. Anybody else doing anything with NFTs?
If I could jump in. For us, there's definitely an avenue here for the pearl industry. And really briefly, the way we've looked at it, and that we've often described sustainable oceanic pearls, is the consumer should not feel like they're just buying a beautiful piece of jewelry, but they should feel like they're investing in our oceans and the health of the planet. Yeah. And that's so true for us that we do have to move that needle. We do have to look at NFTs, because we're not simply dealing with a piece of jewelry. We can tap into that conservation aspect of it, where the potential for pearls, in my view, is huge and it's quite exciting, and I see that's going to be important in our future for sure.
We hear the excitement in your voice. Thanks, Justin. I think we did have another question here with the lady with the microphone.
Yes, hello, this is Marianne. I work within marketing and communications in Paris. And I'm also half Danish, so I'm interested in sustainability, knowing how Northern Europe tends to be very focused on that area. And I have a question for all of you. How far along is the French luxury industry with the topics of sustainability? What is your experience? And how can we make it even more relevant?
Did we all hear the question clearly? How far along is the French?
What is the level of interest from any French customers that you might have in sustainability, and is it something you're looking into, given that France is one of the bigger luxury markets?
Well,
it's put to everybody, but feel free to join in if you'd like. Anybody.
I'll jump in quickly and just say that actually Greenland Ruby has an office in Paris. One of our main focus and target audience is the French luxury brands. Exactly for this reason, they are very interested in sustainability and responsibility. They are obviously, we all know that the high jewelry brands that originate in Europe or in France, and of course in Italy as well, are very sophisticated, and sustainability and responsibility does come hand in hand with this level of sophistication. It's key for us. And yes, we have an office that operates out of Paris to deal specifically with European brands as such, and we not our entire message, but a big part of our message is about sustainability, responsibility. Very important.
If I could jump in, we're selling more and more pearls into Europe, more and more into the developed and most influential markets, Europe and also the US. And it is specifically because of sustainability and that association. And, you know, some of the big brands that quite often have avoided pearls because pearls are so unique. We can't manufacture the same pearl over and over and over again. Each one would be unique in a way. That is changing. You know, now they're starting to understand that you know, they can't just talk sustainability. They've actually got to provide a sustainable product. And in my mind, you know, they're starting to wake up to the pearls are the ultimate sustainable gem that there is. And we definitely work with some French companies already and continue to do so.
Yeah.
Thank you for the French.
Chris.
I can't speak for the French consumer, but we do work with a number of French luxury houses, and I think what they're doing is commendable, actually, because they're driving the sustainability within the diamond industry. You know, it started a few years back with the whole naturality, and then in 2017, 2018, it moved on to traceability, and now we're working very closely with them on all sorts of ESG projects, because, you know, as we say, we're all part of the supply chain. We might be part of your Scope 3 emissions, so it means that we have to do our bit, and we have to look at everything that we can do within our organization, and that helps you. So it's I think it's that they're doing a great job.
Unless there's anything else that anybody wants to add, I'm conscious of the time. I'm very grateful for yours, for giving it to us today. We could talk about this lots more, and I'm sure we will, but talk is one thing, actual work is another. So I'm going to let you guys get on with your work. Chris Bull from Dimexon, thank you so much for joining us. Justin Hunter from J. Hunter Fiji Pearls. Hayley Henning from Greenland Ruby. Charlie Betts from Betts Metal Group and SMO. And last but not least, Hugh Daniel from Platinum Guild International, PGI. Thank you for joining. Thank you to all of you. I'm being told and indicated there is one question. I'm worried about the time, but I know that you will be brief with your question.
I don't know who's doing that. Okay. Yes, please. Hi, my name is Esther Lichtert. I run a jewelry blog called Bizida. I do also consultancy and coaching in jewelry. I'm so proud to listen to your stories, and I feel so proud of the industry doing all these steps. My biggest worry is how does it trickle down to the people on the sales floor in a normal jewelry store? Where I go to, I see people struggle with this story. They don't have any answer about the sustainability about pearls. You've told a lovely story that I would like to translate.
Thank you for that. You know, I think I can answer that. Ask them to watch this video, which will be uploaded to Vincenzo Ora's YouTube and Cibjo's channel, and there's a range of stories that we've had here. So, you know, forgive me if I jump in, but time is against us on this point. And I think we've all demonstrated a load of clear benefits that the jewelry industry brings to society. So if I can answer that question, watch the video and learn and engage in these conversations. And there's so much going on, but it's a really important question, Esther.
I think blockchain is going to be the future in regards to that, where a QR code would be able to take you in our place to the mine, in our specific industry, right to the farm, right to where it's being farmed. That's where we want to get to, and we were trying to get to several years ago, but you know, it got a bit
training
difficult.
And education and training of sales team, online sales toolkits, very important. Digital ability that everybody can tap into everything that they need to know, their fingertips.
Thanks, guys. Listen, I'm sorry, we've got 5 minutes before the next one. Thank you all very much for being here. 5 minutes, and we're back and talking about innovation and technology in jewelry manufacturing.
Well done.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us. Thank you.
We went
Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. We are once more and again offering another very interesting webinar seminar, both in person and virtually. I want to thank these distinguished speakers that are today in person, as well those that will be with us virtually. And I don't want to take extra time in order to let you enjoy to listen to our wonderful people that is giving us, and I would say, give us the possibility to enjoy about their knowledge and vision. Thank you very much, Ed. Thank you.
Thank you, Gaetano, and welcome back, everybody, and welcome back to this second seminar here. Jewelry Industry Voices is the name of Cibjo's webinar series. So once again, for those of you that are new, it's such a pleasure to be here IRL, as they say, in real life, and having a live audience, and it's wonderful to connect with our expert panelists next to me, and two colleagues also joining us online, one from Wales and one from UK. So welcome back again. This is Jewelry Industry Voices. It's a series of webinars where we look at issues that affect the jewelry industry from the perspective of industry leaders and industry figures. This event is sponsored by PGI, the Platinum Guild International, and we're very grateful to Hugh Daniel and everybody at PGI for your ongoing commitment and support. Thinking about commitments and support, we wouldn't be here without the wonderful work that Italian Exhibition Group, IEG, Marco Carniello and his team. So thank you so much, Marco, for everything you do to promote Cibjo, to promote the industry, and to promote the whole area about responsibility and sustainability. But today we want to look at jewelry manufacturing. We want to look at how innovation and technology is driving a new way of the industry to go forward, to connect with the consumer, and to deliver a more efficient, a cleaner, and a better product. How do we address these issues? New techniques that we see emerging, such as 3D printing, additive manufacturing, laser welding, even innovation in different alloys of precious metals. These are all allowing manufacturers to create a wider range and type of jewelry than was ever possible before. So this increased use of new manufacturing technologies, it all allows increased precision in finished pieces. And this allows a cleaner manufacturing process. In turn, this allows for more creativity, helping attract a more inclusive and a more diverse range of jewelry designers into the industry. And it also allows for an increased use of alternative materials. So with this greater focus that we've been talking already about today, this greater focus on sustainability, how do we bring that in to production, to manufacturing? Innovations that allow retailers to demonstrate the positive steps that jewelry manufacturing is taking to make improvements in their efficiency, to decrease waste, and reduce energy usage. To have that discussion, I'm joined here on stage by three experts in the field. We have, to my left here, Damiano Zito from ProGold. You haven't had to come too far today, being a resident here. Damiano, welcome.
Hi.
Having from further afield, Josh Helmick from Arizona, welcome. Thank you for flying all the way and being with us today.
Thank you.
We also have online with us, or should have, Kelvin James from the Diamond Centre of Wales. Kelvin, are you with us? The saying of, yes, Kelvin and Maria.
Thank you very much, yes, we're amazing.
Good afternoon. Kelvin James from Diamond Centre of Wales, and also Maria Shipman, one of the members of your team that's doing a lot of the work in research and development. Welcome to both of you. And also on the line, we should have Peter Crump from Viper Designs. Peter, are you with us?
Hi, Ed. Yes, I'm here.
Great. Can't see you, but I can definitely hear you. Excellent. And lastly, but if we can start with Hugh Daniel from PGI. So let's dive straight in. And Hugh, I'd really like to start with you and a little bit more information about PGI's work. And what is your role as an organization in driving new technology and designs?
Thank you, Ed. Hello, everybody. I think that our role has changed dramatically in the last 5 to 10 years, primarily because in the platinum sector, there was generally a lack of innovation in the design area. So what we needed to do as basically a consumer marketing organization that had been very much focused on downstream, how do we present platinum to the consumer, we had to actually look upstream and start getting involved in stimulating design innovation. And we do that now in all of the markets where PGI operates. And I think it's fair to say that when we look at where jewelry's going, you know, to a certain extent, design has always driven desire in the purchasing process. But you can now add two things onto that. One is technology, because technology is enabling much greater design innovation. And branding. You can't just do a pretty design. There needs to be a story. There needs to be a whole identity around it that can basically, to a certain extent, extract more value from that. We're talking about getting more value in terms of a premium margin for a well-designed and branded product. And importantly, addressing, to a certain extent, the existential issue that all retailers have in the world today, whether you're in Shanghai or in Phoenix, Arizona, or in Paris, which is there's actually less consumers physically in stores. And this is a trend that started many, many years before the pandemic, which means that every retailer needs to be able to extract more value from the customer that's walking into the store. And design technology is a key way of doing that. What I just wanted to do is just give, if I may, a few examples from each of the markets where we're working most aggressively on this area, starting with China. In China, what we've been doing for several years there is really working with the industry to innovate, because the platinum sector is very small in relation to gold. So what we were seeing was there was a lot of gold jewelry that was being really driven by interesting design, and platinum was lagging behind. So we worked very closely with the platinum sector in developing new designs. I think we're going to be seeing those on the screen. To just give you a sample of, just a flavor of the kind of jewelry that's now being produced there. Technologies like laser engraving and harder alloys and all these processes that are allowing us to kind of really push the boundaries on that design.
If I can prompt again, I think there are some images to be brought up onto the screen if we can. Thank you.
So it was a real pressing need for us in China, because basically the number one reason why consumers weren't buying platinum in China, our studies showed us, was there wasn't a design I could find that appealed to me. And when you constantly get those kind of feedback from consumers, you know you've got a problem that you've got to fix, and you can throw as much marketing money at the market as you want. But if you don't have a great product that consumers want to buy, it's a waste of money. So these are just some examples of what new improved alloys have allowed us to do in terms of changing the shape, getting into these more organic shapes. And the way we market this in China is through a branded collection that PGI owns. It's called Platinum Moment, and we make that available to the industry at large. These are some examples of products where they integrate enamel into the product. And this particular line here was inspired by Piet Mondrian, who you'll be very familiar with. And then in the gem sets sector, which is very important, it's the fastest growing sector of jewelry in China, again making sure that platinum did not have a competitive disadvantage against 18-karat gold, which it did from the point of view of manufacturing and cost. Some of the new alloys that have been developed in China now have basically narrowed the gap and made platinum much more competitive in that gem set area. Moving on to, if we could talk about maybe India. In India, platinum is a very new metal in India. We've only been in the market. We pretty much introduced platinum to India about 20 years ago, but it's only in the last 10 years that we've actually really gained traction. And when we initially launched platinum into India, it was basically what I would call a global product on a global positioning. And it failed because, as you will all know, any of you who've been to India, there is a very strong indigenous jewelry industry. Jewelry is really woven into the fabric of life in India. And so for platinum, we really needed to find a unique design language for platinum. And if I can articulate that, I would say it is a modern, internationally inspired, but fundamentally Indian product. And so some of the examples here, this is Platinum Ivara, which is a women's jewelry branded segment. What do I mean by that? We created a whole new category of jewelry that did not exist before in the marketplace, which is jewelry that can either be bought as a gift or increasingly is actually bought by young women as self-purchase, which is a relatively new phenomenon in India and certainly new in the platinum category. So these are just some examples of really some quite beautiful designs that we've been able to use to establish platinum in India and also importantly differentiate it from gold. So for the industry, platinum never was about taking share from gold. It was actually coming in with an incremental opportunity for the trade. And because of all of these pieces here use design, as you can see, in such a beautiful way, they are actually piece priced, which again differentiates platinum from gold and allows the jewelry industry to secure a very healthy margin. So the margins on platinum in India are some of the highest that you'll see in the world, which makes it a very attractive product category for the Indian trade and has really, to a certain extent, speeded up the adoption of this very new metal into the Indian market. So these are just examples, again, of platinum-intensive jewelry, so metal-intensive jewelry, where often 80% of the value of the piece is actually in a metal, and the gems are just used to highlight that. Men of Platinum is a new program that we launched 2 years ago into what is a very important sector, but again, platinum had not been present in that. And again, here we use design there was no point in coming in with a Me Too product to gold. So the designs that you see here are, I would say, fashion forward and very in line with the positioning of platinum in India, which is a metal that really resonates with the progressive values of the younger generation of Indians today. Whether we're in the love gifting market or the self-purchase market, platinum, the way we've positioned it from a marketing point of view, is very much metal that corresponds with progressive contemporary values. Here we see some products which are integrating gold. And then lastly, if I can just go to the USA, where in the USA, a market which, as you know, is dominated by the diamond, and platinum has a role in that, a very important role in that market, but it's a niche role, holding the diamond. What we wanted to do is we believed there was a market for metal-intensive jewelry in platinum, which was just non-existent in the American market. So what we did is we created a brand, which is called Platinum Born, and we introduced product which is readily available in Japan, beautifully manufactured, machine-manufactured beads, miracle beads, products which, for all intents and purposes, look like diamonds because they have mirrored facets, but in fact, these are pieces of jewelry that are entirely made out of the platinum metal. And again, I think the reason I wanted to share this example was this shows how you can actually create a whole new category of jewelry. You know, there was not, for all intents and purposes, there was not a self-purchase, female self-purchase platinum category in America, and this product's filling that gap. And this product is now readily available in high-end independent stores and in Saks Fifth Avenue and Neiman Marcus and online. And as you can see here, it's a very distinctive product. There's nothing else like this on the US market, and it just is an example again of where you can use technology and design to create new business opportunities. And I think that's what this webinar is all about.
Thank you, and thank you for highlighting that and giving us some visual treats there on the screen. Thank you so much for your patience, Kelvin and Maria, and also Peter. Peter, if I can turn to you first, in Leicestershire there in the UK, welcome to join us. And I introduced you as being from Viper Designs, your business of more than 40 years. But we also really wanted you to talk with us about the Goldsmiths Craft and Design Council Awards, or the GCDC Awards. Many people in the UK refer to them as the Oscars of the jewelry industry. So Peter, as the chairman of the GCDC Awards and the council, have you noticed an increase in designer makers using more innovation and technology in jewelry manufacturing in the UK? And how has GCDC Awards responded to this?
Well, absolutely. A large number of the entrants in our awards are students or recent graduates, and they've extensive exposure to the most recent technology and innovation within the jewellery industry. So as an organisation with a 120-year history, GC and DC, we've always judged hand skills to the highest standards. We're a benchmark organisation. It's not about first, second and third. It's about, are you good enough? Are you good enough to take a bronze, a silver or a gold award? So now it's really appropriate that we encourage entrance into technological sections within the competition and judge in the same way. So we've partnered over the last few years, we've partnered with industry leaders, say like Cooks and Gold would be a good example, or Alpha Lasers, to create new sections within the competition for these technically advanced people to enter. So whether it's design or whether it's modern technological skills, so designs for precious metal printing, laser technology, whether it's hand laser skills using new technology, but these are the new craft skills in our industry, so it's appropriate that we promote them.
Thank you. Let me turn back to the room if I can, and Damiano, thank you for joining from ProGold here in Italy. What do you consider is the most important innovation in jewelry manufacturing that you're currently focusing on?
Finally, 3D metal printing, in our opinion, is the most disruptive innovation in jewelry. I mean, is the way to build jewelry in a totally different way. Like it happened with horse and train, then you were going from one city to another city with horse, and then you totally change, you get by plane, for example, from one city to another one. And now, metal printing, which has not to be confused with wax printing, then that is in somehow just a new phases to still applying the casting process in jewelry. Metal printing is offering several benefits, several advantages. It's a very, let's say, disrupting innovation. That's why it takes some time more to be, how to say, embraced and accepted. There are many reasons why the people are not really in somehow, everyone say, oh, I love this technology, I love this technology. But always and every day they have not enough brave to totally embrace. However, metal printing is the most attractive and big opportunity for the production and the freedom for the future idea and design in jewelry field.
Thank you. Excellent. We'll talk about that more in a minute, but if I can turn to Josh here, what type of developments have occurred in platinum alloys? And what does this allow for designers and manufacturers?
Thank you, Ed. Back in the 90s, really when platinum, I would say, became much more popular with PGI's help, there was a lot of push for alloy development and new technology. But as the price of platinum continued to escalate and gold kind of stayed down, I feel like there was a time frame there where it kind of fell off and gold really leaped ahead. And Hugh had mentioned that in China, but that was really globally. But over the past few years, there's been a big resurgence in new alloy development, across the board, and being able to push some of the work that was done in the 90s and early 2000s into the future. To be able, at the end of the day, you want to create a better product, and create alloy that's harder, but also still has ductility. So it can, you can do more CNC work. It's quicker to polish, has lower porosity, things of that nature. So, and right now, I think with the resurgence, it's also helpful, with the price of platinum being where it is and the price of gold. I mean, it is a great time to be able to push platinum further into the marketplace, because it's not double the cost of gold as it was, 08, 09, it was 2.5 the cost of gold products. So there's a lot of work going on, and a lot of exciting things are going to be coming out.
And do any of these alloys, do they vary by region? Hugh was looking at different regions, so do you see anything?
Yeah, one thing that's not realized, I think, to the end consumer and even to the salespeople on the floor is not all platinum alloys are the same. And you have various parts of the globe. China, for example, is very platinum copper driven. The U.S. is more platinum ruthenium. UK is platinum cobalt, and everyone's got some benefits and some disadvantages. But those do translate to the end consumer and how well the product wears and how it looks over time. So, I think as the alloy development continues and the knowledge comes out and is able to be all the way down to the end consumer, that at the end of the day, they can get a better product.
Kelvin, let's turn to you, and thank you for joining and representing Wales today. It's great to have you online with us just outside Cardiff there. And, you're sitting there in your office with Maria Shipman. And, for me, when I started to investigate this topic, I was immediately told to speak with the Diamond Centre of Wales, because you're doing so much innovation and technology. In fact, Maria joins you on a KTP scheme, a knowledge transfer and partnership, which is between academia and industry. So as a traditional jeweler for more than 30 years. Why are you so focused on innovation, research and development, and innovation in technology nowadays?
Thanks, Ed, and thanks for inviting us. Well, I don't know whether the rest of the panel agree with me, but in the UK at the moment, there seems to be a shortage of people to train for goldsmiths. The ones that do train in the UK are staying around the hubs of the Birmingham Jewellery Quarter, Hatton Garden area. It's very hard for those people to get down to relocate to South Wales. So as a company, we've had to look at other methods. We're looking at innovation and very innovative ways to support our current goldsmiths and in turn grow our markets and demographic to secure a strong future for the Diamond Centre. I also want to say that our priority will never change. The Diamond Centre will always have the customer interest first. We want to create a very unique and extraordinary design way that our clients come up with, and our designers, of course. 3D printing is going to be a great support in that area. With that ethos, with all the different design capabilities it can offer compared to traditional manufacturing methods.
So, you talked about the importance of 3D printing and why you're focusing on it. Can it really be a profitable strategy for you going forward? And how are you going to promote the growth in this area?
Right. Okay. Well, I'll tell you what. Now Maria's sitting next to me, the beautiful Maria. I'll pass you on to Maria for that answer.
Hi. So I'm working, like Ed said, with Birmingham City University's The School of Jewellery to research how precious metal 3D printing can be embedded within an SME and how it can be profitable for small businesses. And I think there are a few ways in which 3D printing supports growth and profits within the Diamond Centre. And it is through, like Damiano said, unique designs and can be with quicker manufacturing times as well. 3D printing can offer a wider range of jewellery designs due to capabilities that the printer can create compared to what a casting department can create. This gives designers and creators kind of an untouched at the moment realm to create exclusive and uncopyable jewellery. And so we're looking at two different types of printers. One being traditionally used for, well, not traditionally used, but used in jewellery manufacturing at the moment, kind of selective laser melting, or SLM for short. And we're also looking at binder jetting technology. But with selective laser melting, there's about 5 different design aspects that we can look at compared to casting. So we can create lighter jewellery by hollowing or lightweighting a part, meaning we can offer a wider clientele our service and our unique designs, as there's less metal weight. But it also means that in our larger statement pieces, that they are easier and lighter for the wearer. So that is a big bonus. But also we can add foreign parts such as stones, hair, small urns of ashes in different ways to traditional methods.
Yep.
And settings.
Great.
Sorry.
That's lovely. Sorry, thank you for that. I mean, I think we've got a great picture of how you're using 3D printing in your process. So, we've talked about alloys, we've talked about 3D printing, some other applications and some benefits. And Josh, you've introduced me to this new term. Let's hope I get it right. HIP, hot isostatic pressing. Let's look at that. And what is it, and what are the benefits of being HIP?
Okay. Well, HIP, the technology has actually been around for a long time. It was developed in the 1960s, used defense industry, aerospace industry. It's come into the jewelry industry much more recently, but it is still not widely used. And basically, it's a technology that helps eliminate porosity, helps create better densification of the metal, whether it be platinum or gold, and better ductility within the metal. Now, This is done in a machine that basically you throw the items in, and it's heat, pressure, and time. And so for porosity, it literally crushes all the internal voids within the metal. And it is used in, for cast products. It's also used on AM side.
Additive manufacturing.
Additive manufacturing side. And it's actually, they're utilizing it in the gemstone industry now as well. So it's a technology that it was extremely expensive, and the cost has come down quite a bit. So with that, that is enabling more jewelers that, learn about it to be able to have access to it. And if you really want to get all the details on it, last year I did a video in conjunction with Platinum Guild. It's on platinumabc.com, which is one of PGI's newer channels, and did a 2-day video with one of the global leaders in the United States for creating this technology.
Great. Well, we've all got some research to do there at platinumabc.com. Thank you. And how briefly, if you can, how does it feed into 3D printing?
Well, I think I'm going to pass it over to this gentleman right here because...
Sure.
You're good. You're good.
It is somehow a technology that, in my opinion, started in metal printing. It came to jewelry through metal printing or through platinum, because it's really much helping to densify that kind of items produced in platinum or in metal printing, while gold jewelry really is not really suffering that kind of huge problem that happens on casting with platinum. In our facility, we use 2 hip system, so for metal printing. And in metal printing, I tell you, the reason was very simple. Since it was a baby technology, and then we didn't want to spoil reputation, and since the expectation by everyone in jewelry by metal printing was so high, then we didn't make any mistake in delivering something. So one way was to hipping all items to try to do not give the excuse by the final consumer, or company, because we deliver semi-finished products, to say, there is something wrong, this technology doesn't work, and blah, blah, blah. So that's why we decided to go for HIP. But on my point of view, HIP should be really embraced by the entire jewelry, especially on high end. But on mass production, it has not really sense, because mass production not really looking for that perfection in jewelry. But on high-end jewelry, it makes sense because the reworking is much more expensive than the money that you need to invest to have a HIP unit in the company.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And you can totally stop any thermodynamic calculation that you do to put the gate system runner around the piece because of controlling the shrinkage and that stuff. So let's say it's a kind of pill of the day after, you can do whatever.
I think Damiano hit it perfectly right there. I mean, for jewelry production, it basically takes your rejection rate, regardless if it's in AM space or in casting space, almost down to 0, which is unheard of without this technology, regardless of the metal. So the benefits, the machines can pay for themselves relatively quickly, and the benefits are endless. And there's even new technology coming out. It's out, but hasn't really been applied yet within the jewelry industry space. But I feel like we'll see more of that with HIP technology and sintering all at the same time. So there's a lot of exciting things that will be coming out.
And we talked earlier about how 3D printing is really in its infancy, and you talked about a little baby. I mean, how do we help this technology to develop and to mature and to be a fully fledged adult, if I can, and contribute to society.
Yeah, yes, I was always using this example to try to talk about, to give a description about metal printing, because it's really like a baby. It needs people that be enough patient on what is still missing from the ability point of view, because of the possibility that is able to offer in the future. How to, there are really not, I will say that we could, who is involved in metal printing, we should choose the right, let's say, people that when they see the technology, they just say, wow. They have not to say, he's doing this, he's doing that, he's doing that thing. No, because the technology in somehow is ready. Like many things in the market, when they are ready doesn't mean that they are successful. So you can be ready and not successful, because there are the distance between being ready and being successful is not very short nowadays. And how to help in practice is just exactly from our side, I can say from my side, to try to do not wasting time to the people that will embrace only when it will be ready in his point of view, which means that everyone are using.
Okay.
Because those people say, everyone is using, so I use.
Yep.
No, we have to go to the people who say, wow, I help you to, so you give me something and I give you back my feedback. Yep. But I do not complain because it's still not able, that baby, to sing. Because, you know, it takes time to learn singing.
Yeah, thank you. And, you know, it's a great analogy. I like the way that we're going to have to help this product or this technology to develop. And Kelvin, if I can turn to you again, you know, you've talked to us about how you're in a transitional period and you're moving much more into this technology space. But, you know, within that, you know, how can you create a complete circuit of production in your facility there with your jewelry manufacturing, and how's that going to work for you as a manufacturer, but also as a retailer?
Well, okay, at the Diamond Center now, we're working on several projects, and we are at the early stages of expanding, and we can provide, as a jewelry manufacturer, from augmented reality marketing to security. We're looking at all sectors of our business and how we can be leaders for luxury retailers. You know, we're working in 3 areas. We're working on an app at the moment that we've created called CERIC. It's technology that which the wearer can see them wearing the piece of jewelry and have an option of fast bespoke creativity within their design. We're working with Bangor and Aberystwyth universities to develop a new innovative traceability system. Now, that should be out, we're developing it now, should be out next year, and that's going to be ridiculously interesting. With all new grading and security technology for precious stones and high-value products. We're working with Maria on the dual print project with Birmingham University, developing precious metal printers. Yep. And how they can be embedded into the industry, and especially at the Diamond Center. We also should find out today if we were successful in obtaining a grant with Sheffield University to create a new SLM printer. That's going to be a new prototype that we've already got a shared patent on.
Can you just spell out SLM for those who are not familiar with it?
Oh, sorry, SLM, Selected Laser Melting.
Thank you. Great. That's nice to hear about all the projects you've got on the go. We'll look forward to hearing more about them. Peter, you know, as a manufacturer, you've seen a rapid rise in the popularity of bespoke jewelry in retail stores. You know, from your perspective, you know, how does technology and innovation that we're talking about here, how does this support retail jewelers having a much more bespoke service to customers?
So, thanks, Ed. Speaking now as Viper Designs, obviously our business for the last few years has focused almost totally on high-end bespoke manufacturing, business to business, sort of one-off and small batch production. So the advances in technology, especially CAD and rapid prototyping, have allowed us to create totally bespoke service with a greatly reduced cost from handmade. The advances with casting technology as well has allowed us to viably use niche metals such as repurposing clients' own metal, fair trade, fair mind, and SMO. Allows us to make a totally viable process for bespoke. This is new territory.
Yeah, it's good, and I think many retailers in the room have seen that increase into bespoke and can see that potential. Let's segue in for the last few questions, really about creativity and sustainability. This topic that we've been talking about already today. And Kelvin, maybe I can turn to you first, but in terms of your jewelry manufacturing, what are you doing as a business to reduce your carbon footprint through your manufacturing process?
Very good question. This is something, it's a big topic at the moment with obviously worldwide and definitely the diamond sector. We've been tackling it for some time. We want a business basically to be passed on from generation to generation. It's been going on for 44 years, so we want to see it carrying on for at least another 100 years. To make it sustainable, we must contribute it too. It's no secret that casting has a huge environmental impact. Casting creates a huge amount of carbon emissions. We identified a few years ago when we were reflecting on what changes we could make, and 3D printing will provide a like-for-like alternative to casting. Although there will always be a need, we feel, for investment casting. We're very much involved with an amazing caster in Birmingham. So albeit we need this casting to be greener for the environment.
Yeah.
Whereas all manufacturers need to be vigilant and literally need to strive towards a greener future for investment casting. We're looking at the moment into offsetting the electricity that we use for our manufacturing process currently, but the early stages of research into renewable energy. So basically watch this space.
Okay, good. Watch this space. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I thought you said watch this space, so we'll look forward to watching it. Let's come back to the room when we're talking about sustainability. Damiano, we had a great chat the other day, and you had some wonderful work that you were doing with actually tracking your carbon emissions for 3D printing compared to traditional casting. But I mean, you know, if I can give a slightly wider question, I mean, how does 3D metal printing give freedom for creativity that allows to move towards sustainability?
From creativity point of view, I believe that more than only the design, of course, metal printing is the first argument that someone is using when has to explain which is the advantages or opportunities that metal printing could give to the one that is going to embrace the technology is design. Yeah. But it's true that it is possible to print whatever you want, but it's not possible to finish whatever you want. So you can print, but it stays printed. So you cannot finish because you can't really enter to polish every single, place of that jewels. So I will say that the creativity should go a bit more in the direction of the material also, because metal printing creativity is not only what you see. I mean, I will like to open a small window on the material, because metal printing will give a chance, of course, to succeed in much better level on the platinum production, but as well on the composite alloys. So today, I always love to say that a goldsmith, it's an artist with 3 colors: yellow, white, and red. But there is a chance with metal printing, thanks to the way it is growing the jewel, to entrap some colored items or some colored particles, and maybe in the next 5 years we will have a chance to have even some different colors. How this will impact with sustainability? I believe that, you know, the nice thing of metal printing is that is a less energy eater technology. Yeah. So to do it the same thing needs less energy. As you see in the picture, this was a research we were doing 5 years ago already, and we were measuring every single production phase of casting compared to metal printing. And it was a batch of platinum rings, and you can see that there is approximately 1/3, but it's simple. If you have a car where the weight is 2 tons, and you have to go from here to Rome, the petrol that you need is different than if that's the same car, same size, but it's just 1 ton. So in casting, you have rubber preparation, wax injection, 3 preparation, investment preparation, burnout, and casting. In metal printing, you have printing. So just one phase is easy, is logic. Even if you do not do the calculation, then you get the answer that it's a way to produce that has much less impact on the environment.
Very clear. Thank you. Very clear. Josh, we were talking as well. You do a lot of work with the mining companies. So what do you see mining companies doing to further their sustainability journeys, especially in the area of platinum?
Yeah, they've actually been doing quite a bit. Hugh touched on this a little bit earlier, but I don't think a lot of people realize, you know, how large specifically the platinum mining companies are and the regulations that they're under. And they're really at the forefront of utilizing technology to, you know, become carbon neutral. Hugh had mentioned that. I think it was 2040, I believe. You know, they're utilizing a lot of renewables for the equipment, you know, to divest away from fossil fuels. I know 2030 is a big goal for renewables for the mining companies as well, within the platinum space. And so the one thing, I feel like that messaging though, and I thought the presentation earlier was great, but that messaging also needs to translate down to the end consumer, because mining companies in general don't, you know, they don't have they're not looked upon greatly, so to speak of, but what they're actually doing and their support for the local communities and you know, less water or waterless mining, there's a lot of things that they're actually utilizing that are extremely important that will bring them to that sustainable factor. But I think all the way down to, you know, the end consumer, it's important that we can translate that so the end consumer can also know, because at the end of the day, you still have to bring metal out of the ground. Yeah,
absolutely. And you know, the old adage, if we don't farm it, we need to mine it. Yeah. And you know, we have to use this technology and increase the way that we bring products out of the ground for efficiency. Peter Crump over there in UK. Peter, can I ask you to put your GCDC, your Goldsmiths Craft and Design Council Award hat on? And with this shift towards more sustainability in jewelry manufacturing, how have you responded from GCDC and what are you doing around that?
So look, we all know that the greater jewellery industry has been very slow to respond to the issues of sustainability and ethics. For years there's been so much smoke and mirrors covering our industry, it's disgraceful. So at GC&DC this year, with one of our patrons, Val Comby, we introduced a special new award to identify, spotlight and celebrate responsible ethical practices in the competition. Oh. So the award that we've offered is open to all entrants in the competition, and judging from the number of entries, we were absolutely blown away. It's such an important subject to all the craft and design people that we're working with. We're just absolutely delighted that we made that move.
Excellent. And I would be remiss if I didn't remind the audience that Kelvin, your team, DCW, Diamond Centre of Wales, have been a GCDC award winner in the past, and I'm sure and I hope you will be in the future too. Let me just wrap up quickly. I know we're a bit over time, but hey, we started late, so we're going to finish late. And I'd like to turn to each of you in turn with a simple question. In a way, it's a way of wrapping up the whole discussion today. Why is innovation in technology and design in jewelry manufacturing important for the industry? Why is what we've been talking about important? Maybe I'll turn to you, Damiano, to start, in no particular order.
Yeah. In my opinion, for the topic I was talking today, the most important advantages that metal printing is offering that has to be taken into consideration as the reason that makes sense to innovate is the sustainability. So no technical things, no really technical things. Technical things is something that you can achieve working, then you can do better. But once the highest and the most precious value is the sustainability, the lower environmental impact. Only this one will make the reason to go for metal printing. Then all technical limitation can be solved.
Excellent. And I didn't mention, if I can ask you all to be brief, because it's lunchtime and we are in Italy and we know what that means. Maybe I can go out of the room here and go to Kelvin. Same question to you. Why is technology and innovation important in jewelry manufacturing?
Thanks, Ed. Firstly, really, I want to pass this business to my daughters and my granddaughters and so forth, so they can pass it on to their children, etc. But to do that, we need to grow manufacturing in the UK. We need to respond to trends, competitions, and we need to evolve. If COVID has taught us anything in business, is to adapt, and 3D printing is ever-changing, adaptable technology which can support production and growth within our businesses.
Excellent, thank you. Peter, same question to you if I can.
So I trained as a craftsman, and the initial instruction to me was to make something as well as I possibly could, always strive to make it better. As a manufacturer, I've done that. Manufacturing is not just about making it quickly or cheaply, it's making it well and everything that encompasses.
Josh?
To me, design is truly an art form. And a lot of designing companies and designers globally, they have visions, but the technology and the resources are not always available to create those visions. So to help the industry continue to move forward, fashion forward, so to speak of, you do need these technologies, these alloy developments, AM, to be able to help support the design side to achieve a finished product.
Excellent, thank you. Now, I know we're a bit over time, but I'd love to take some questions from the audience because we're live. So if any of you do have any questions, now's a great time to put up your hand and a microphone will be with you. Please identify who you are, where you're from, and if it's to a panelist, identify them by name.
Oh, that challenge.
Correct name.
My name is Elle Hill. I'm from Hill & Company Business Management Consultants to the diamond, gemstone, and jewelry industry only. And my question is for all of you guys. I learned things. I love this industry. I learned so much about how you guys are implementing technology to underpin the actual work that you guys do. But I heard you say, making sure the consumers understand what we're doing, especially around the sustainability part and the impact, that measurable impact that you showed on your slide. My question to you is this. In B2B, which you guys are in the middle of the stream here, I find, I'm curious about how you're implementing technology and digital marketing and digital spaces and all the developments that are happening in order to communicate and show up to the people who are your B2B business buyers, because they actually need to be communicated to just like end consumers. And I wonder if that is on your radar. And if so, what you're doing.
Thank you. Who would like to take that first?
I wouldn't mind addressing that because out of interest, about 3-4 years ago, we opened a showroom in Shenzhen to showcase the platinum manufacturing community. there. And then the pandemic happened. And so it was a showroom that was basically developed for physical visitors as buyers from all over China descend on Shenzhen, which is the jewelry capital of China. That became an online showroom. So we have a digital version of that. So we now actually have, thanks to the pandemic, we have more volume of visitors visiting that digital showroom. So we're basically using the same space. It's a physical showroom, but we've repurposed it in a digital way.
Maybe I can ask Kelvin, as the retailer in the room, what are your thoughts around this question? How are you responding to the consumer's questions? Are you getting questions from the consumer?
Oh, absolutely. There's a never-ending stream of questions, and I think what we're doing with the innovation side of the company is helping it. It's getting down to source and traceability, to huge amount of grading systems, how we can be not just sustainable, but how we can be in evidence, how we can prove everything. I think a good idea as well is that we're creating systems that we'll be using blockchain technology, and we've embraced that enormously in the trade and developing it. So going from B to B is, I think it's going to be very easy in the future, and very, 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 very visible. Yeah.
Great, thank you. Unless there are any other questions
I would just agree with that. It's visibility, it's transparency, it's sharing as much of our business as we can with our clients and their clients, and that's absolutely crucial. It encourages trust and so much more within the business.
Thank you, Peter. Thank you very much. Unless there are any other questions from the audience, I will say thank you very much to all of you for being here. Thank you so much, Peter, Kelvin, and Maria, for joining us. We wish you a good rest of your day over there. Damiano, thank you so much. We wish you good business at the show. You'll be at your booth, Pro Gold, shortly, I'm sure. Josh, thanks a lot for joining us with us and joining in this conversation. And Hugh, for your support for Cibjo and the industry from PGI, we thank you all. Lastly, but as I said at the beginning, thanks to IEG, Italian Exhibition Group, Marco Caniello, and the team. And I'm signing off now. I'm going to go and have a nice Italian lunch. Wishing you all a good day.
Bye.